Now, before we begin diving into this match, I want to take a listen to what Chelsea's manager Enzo Maresca had to say about the effort of his team when they were 10 men down starting in the 38th minute and how proud he is of his side up against the Premier League leaders Arsenal. So let's take a listen.
For sure, the effort of the players. Arsenal, they are top of Premier League, top of Champions League, best defender in the Premier League, probably best defender in Champions League. So in this moment, they are the best team. And I think 11-11, we were better than them. And then with 10 players again, changed the dynamic. So the effort from the players has been outstanding.
I'm curious how this match would have been if it was 11v11 for the majority of the game, because Chelsea felt like they were getting the best of Arsenal, Geoff. But do you feel like it was a missed opportunity maybe for Arsenal to not be able to get more out of this game with a 10-man Chelsea?
Well, I'm not convinced it was ever going to finish 11 versus 11, Claudia. It was an old-fashioned tear-up. It was a proper war of attrition at times. Tackles were flying in. The referee, in some ways, I thought it was a very, very difficult game for him to ref. There were 6 yellow cards in the first half. That's the most we've had in the Premier League this season. So the players made it difficult, and I've got to say as well, some of the histrionics that's creeping into the game as well didn't help him either. There's no doubt about the red card. It's a red card all day long. I think before the game, if you'd said you'll win the first 2 and get a point at the bridge, so you maintain the distance between you and Chelsea, most Arsenal fans, and probably Mikel Arteta, would have taken that. It's the fact that they played the game with one-man advantage for 2/3 of the game. That is going to lead to an element of frustration or disappointment. But we all know playing against 10 does not guarantee you will immediately win. It's not the huge advantage necessarily that people think. So personally, I think perspective is required. Where we are in the season, where they are in the table, and the week that they've had as well, I think it's a more than acceptable point.
For Chelsea.
For Arsenal.
For Arsenal.
For Chelsea, if you go down to 10, you've got to be pleased with a point.
Yeah, I thought for Chelsea, it felt like a win, even though they got the draw, even though they were man down. For them to show the resilience they had and also the ambition that they had, I was really impressed with this Chelsea side. I have a bit of slight disappointment for Arsenal. I agree with the 7 points if you look at the grander picture, but the point you made about 2/3 of a match, it's the best team in world football right now, right? For them to lack a cutting edge in the ways they did, and frankly, I thought up until the red card, they looked rattled for the first time we've ever seen them this season. You could say the emotional outputs, but let's not kid ourselves. They bossed the game against Tottenham. The one game that was the emotional output was the Bayern game, right? So with the man advantage, I was hoping for a bit more. And I just thought that the likes of Zubimendi struggled in that match. The likes of the 2 center backs, which we'll get into in a little bit, struggled in that match. And the red card kind of bailed Arsenal out.
Because of the way that Chelsea was playing. It was a great game plan from Maresca. Let's dirty up the game. Let's get into it. Let's make it a gritty fight the entire game. Up until the red card, the game needed something to change. The dynamic of the game needed to change. It was either a goal, a big moment like that, because if not, it was going to be very cagey, very gritty. As long as Chelsea wanted to make it. And perhaps Arsenal wasn't ready for that. And it just so happened it got so cagey, so gritty that a red card ended up what opened the game up a little bit. And it's such a shame. You say that it felt like a win for Chelsea, which I agree. I think it feels like a win after the sending off. But if you're Moises Caicedo, just going in like that, overzealous into that tackle, it does feel more like a lost opportunity because you were playing such a great game, and in fact, you were probably even better than Arsenal with 10 men for a little bit. It's like, we were deprived of such a
Don't forget as well. I mean, there's no the red card. It's just he's just got
dumb.
He's just got it all wrong, hasn't he? But he'd previously been charging around the pitch, flying into tackles.
3 challenges.
So it wasn't. I mean, he only gave a yellow.
Yeah,
so,
sensational.
I thought he went so early with his first booking, Anthony Taylor, he almost gave himself a problem because then players are appealing for every foul. Arsenal thought that Cucurella should have been sent off as well. So it was difficult. And also, don't forget, Arsenal were without either of their first choice centre-backs. And they just looked a little bit leggy, a bit fatigued, and Arsenal creatively were nothing like their best at the weekend. They lacked that spark. And we all talked about, do you remember we spoke in the week, we couldn't wake up to see this amazing matchup, Enzo and Caicedo, Rice and Zubimendi. We never really saw it, did we? Reece James pretty much bossed the midfield when he came into midfield. He was excellent. It was quite open and it was quite punchy. I don't think it was the game, Claudia, that any of us were expecting.
Yeah, you spoke about the defense. No Gabriel, no Saliba for Arsenal, and they give up a goal on a corner kick, Lahoud.
Yeah, I mean, without Gabriel and Saliba, this Arsenal backline is a completely different backline. I know it's the first time we saw Hincapie and is it Mosquera that got their first pairing together, but I thought they were very shaky in that first half, and I think there was a chance that João Pedro should have scored. I mean, lay the ball off to Esteval. He chose to take the shot. Yeah, he chose to take way too long, and that's going to come when it's an early pairing. But I look at the intangibles in this, and I was really disappointed with Christian Mosquera in terms of on the ball. He looked very nervous, and Chelsea targeted him. I mean, they took the likes of Jurgen Timber and said, Pedro Neto, I'm going to mark you. They man-marked everyone and said, we're going to put the game on the center backs and allow them to make the game. And yes, with the man advantage, Mosquera really settled in a bit more. But of the two, I would have said that he had a better performance than Hincapie in terms of on the ball, in possession. But you really see the void that's left without Saliba and without Gabriel. And both these two players in the North London derby and against Bayern, they had the benefit and the calmness of Saliba next to them. And you really see, and just presence-wise, the leadership of a player like Saliba with Gabriel being out. That's a big, big void that Arsenal had, and it really showed on the day.
So if you say all of that, makes the point look better.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I mean, of course. But going down, the thing is that they went down a goal when they were a man up on a corner kick. Like, again, I don't think we should use Arsenal not having certain players as an excuse, right, at this season. Like, I feel like that's become the theme of Arsenal. They're so deep at this point. Maybe it serves to explain a certain outcome in a game, but it won't serve to explain where they end on the season if it's not winning some sort of silverware.
No, of course, that is entirely the narrative, to win something. But it's funny, the set-piece goal that they conceded, Trevor Chalobah, he's just helping it on. He's not going for goal. And nobody was really at fault. It's one of those things you can't legislate for. He's entitled to win that ball. The man behind him is close to him. It's not a goal where you look at it and say, we should not be conceding a goal. You don't want to give up any goal. But I didn't think the keeper was at fault. The centre-halves weren't necessarily at fault. But they just didn't create enough. I think Chelsea had more shots than Arsenal. And that's where they looked a little bit mentally tired more than anything else.
I think one thing that surprised me, I know he was on a yellow card, but given how shaky both centre-backs were, I was surprised Mikel Arteta didn't shift Riccardo Califiori to centre-back, because he does play that position. And I thought that would have just given a bit more balance to the back line, and maybe it frees up Lewis Skelly to get more involved in the ways, but that would have been the only thing I could see potentially to do forward.
But he hooked him because he was on a yellow card. Yeah. So that's why Califiori went out.
Right.
So
they all got booked, right? Who was... they got booked early. Yeah, Mosquera and Hincapie. 3 of the 4 in the back line were booked very early on. I thought that it was crazy that Chelsea didn't do a more active effort on trying to go after one of the 3 guys in the back line that was already on a yellow. And it didn't work out to try to even it numerically. But, yeah, I think the perfect headline is the game that we all did not expect.
No.
Good game, very good game to watch.
Sometimes an entertaining game isn't necessarily a great game.
Yeah.
And I thought that was a really entertaining game that wasn't necessarily a great game of football.
Alan, you were on the call yesterday for the Arsenal-Chelsea matchup. So, I mean, for you, you said that maybe you didn't enjoy it maybe as much as you thought that you would, and I'm interested to hear why.
Yeah, I mean, when I put the microphone down at the end of the match and you start thinking about it, and you think, well, that was high octane, it was full-blooded, it was aggressive, but he didn't have the quality that I thought he'd have. You know, I thought we'd see a little bit more football. But listen, it's it's a London derby, and from the first minute, you knew it was going to be that kind of game, really. Proper tear-up, I think, as Geoff said earlier, and tackles flying in left, right and centre. But coming into it, I thought, oh, yeah, this should be a really good spectacle. It was, but not in the way I thought it was going to be. Yeah, it was an old-school derby, and I've been involved in plenty of them where not a lot of football is played, maybe not too many chances either end, but still compelling to watch.
Smudge, do you think it showed that Chelsea had a day more to prepare? I mean, it's a slight thing. I'm just thinking the momentous week that Arsenal had. They just looked a bit fatigued. Or maybe the fact it was London derby meant there was no football to be played. Did you think they weren't at their best creatively as they have been of late?
Well, they definitely weren't at the best creatively, were they, Geoff? Yeah, I just thought they're just lacking that little bit of zip, that little bit of spark to create chances. And I did wonder about the extra 24 hours. And I was watching the press conferences afterwards, and I was thinking, is Mikel Arteta going to mention it? And he did mention it. I mean, it's only 24 hours, and both had big nights in the Champions League, emotionally draining nights in a way. So, from that point of view, Chelsea had their match against Barcelona, played brilliantly in front of their own fans, and Arsenal likewise against Bayern. And it does, I think, emotionally and that, it does take a fair bit out of you. But Chelsea didn't seem to lack for legs and aggression. Arsenal did. They started slowly and couldn't really pick it up. But, when you look at the 3 matches in total, I think it was still a good week for them.
Smudge, just looking at the bigger picture, Arsenal 5-point lead in the table over Chelsea side, and they've created a bit of cushion, right, in the Premier League. When you look forward for the Gunners, I mean, is this going to be that feeling of, is this the year?
Well, that's all the talk in England, Mikey. That it's Arsenal's to lose. I hate that phrase because we're only in early December and they haven't won it yet, so it's not theirs to lose. But listen, I think they're the best team in the Premier League. I don't think many people argue against that. They've got the best squad. I can't remember a team, never mind about just Arsenal, a team in the Premier League having a better quality, in-depth squad whereby, you don't miss players as much as you otherwise might. So, yeah, they're in a brilliant position, both in the Premier League and the Champions League, and I think the belief's there. When they line up in the tunnel now, I've been in this position, you look across to who you're playing against and you think, yeah, we're better than you. And we know that that we're better than you. And that gives you an advantage. But, in fairness, Chelsea stepped up yesterday and bridged the gap. So fair play to them for that.
Smudge, you've been in the position before of the Arsenal players now. You've won titles with the club. How do you manage this sort of expectation in the narrative that's been set? Everyone is talking about this in England.
Yeah, well, you've got to try and avoid the noise, Nico, which is difficult. All the lads are on social media, and whenever they go out, there'll be members of the public talking to them and telling them they've got to win it. This is our year. And it's just part and parcel of it. You either can handle it or you can't. But I think they are ready to handle it now. They've obviously had some very close calls, finishing second. We've been talking about Arsenal as a young side for a long time. They're no longer a young side. They're an experienced one. And I think the belief and the desire is there. Having come second, they're determined for that not to happen again. So we'll see, but all the pieces are in place. I think Mikel Arteta is a fine coach. And, hopefully now I'm at the Brentford game on Wednesday down at the Emirates. And I think they'll bounce back from yesterday and go on another run, a winning run.
Smudge, you were Arsenal number 9. You won a golden boot twice. Although Mikel Merino got the goal yesterday, do you think it has shown, certainly yesterday as well, the lack of a proper centre forward? I mean, we talk about Arsenal in depth, and it's been a bit freakish injuries, and the only true striker they've got is Gyökeres. Jesus, even arguably you could say he's not a number 9. Do you think that has, we talk about their strength in depth, but when you examine closely, are they complete, or do they actually need a little bit more anywhere?
Yeah, I think there's still a lot more to come from Gyökeres, Geoff. He's had this injury, and he's, sometimes he's played, sometimes he's on the bench. He's got a few goals, but I don't think we've seen the best of him. I'm not saying he's a world-class centre-forward or anything like that, but he gives you something that they haven't otherwise got in terms of somebody who's going to get in front of their centre-half in the box, anticipating. But Kai Havertz is back training and very close to returning. So, again, that's another option. So I don't see that as a problem. There are a lack of centre-forwards in general, really, out there. I mean, Chelsea, you could argue, at the moment, are lacking one. João Pedro did it yesterday. I mean, he's not an out-and-out centre-forward. Liam Delap, he's still trying to prove that he can really do well there. So quite often coaches are looking at ways to get around it. But yeah, I think Arsenal have got enough choices, definitely, in that department.
What is the best quality, Smudge, do you think that a Premier League striker needs to succeed?
Belief, I think. Belief that you're good enough. It's a frenetic league. It is still physical. And you've seen players coming in that have taken time to adjust. Now, obviously, lads that are brought up in England, and it's not such a shock. But you've got to be resilient physically in order to take the knocks. It's not as physical as when I played, for instance. Forwards are protected a lot more. But I think it's the pace of the game, and being able to think as quickly as you need to. And as far as strikers are concerned, it's never changed. If you start scoring goals, then everything flicks into place. Everything just feels that much easier.
All right, Alan, thank you so much. We appreciate it.
Thank you. Take care.
Cheers, son.
Thanks for watching this video from Morning Footy. For all news and insights regarding leagues around the world like EFL, Serie A, and all UEFA competitions, both men's and women's, don't forget to sign up for Paramount+.